This is Positively Montana, sponsored by Benefis Health System.
Thanks for tuning into this edition of Positively Montana. I'm Hallie Schwannard. Each week we travel the state looking for people doing good and helping others. Let's begin with our veterans. Thousands call Montana their home, and transitioning into the civilian workforce is no easy task. In Yellowstone County, one veteran and his nonprofit is hoping to use personal experience to change that. The goal is to foster a more supportive work environment.
50% of veterans leave their first job after their military service, and with over 10,000 veterans right here in Yellowstone County, the city of Billings saw a need to bridge that gap.
When describing a veteran,
this is kind of the crescendo moment in the room.
Words like loyal, hardworking, and respectful come to mind.
If the community has it right, and they really think all of these things.
But when you ask a vet to describe themselves,
it was broken and conflicted and those kind of things. That was really surprising to me.
It was an eye-opening moment in the first Vet Ready training session Wednesday morning for the City of Billings department heads, like Director of Human Resources Carla Stanton.
And that they do really view themselves differently, and what we need to do as an employer to make them feel more like they're part of the team.
After 30 years with a lot of responsibility, I get out and I come into the corporate world, and it doesn't look like a military world.
Retired Air Force vet Dave Nordell found that the struggles he was experiencing in the civilian workforce weren't just his own. So he started Vet Ready, a program aimed at bridging the divide.
The gap between leaving active duty military and coming into the civilian world is really wide. There's not a safety net.
With veterans making up over 12% of Montana's population, double the national average, there's a need right here in Billings.
The need for the veteran is a new team, a new sense of purpose, a new home, a new set of battle buddies. And on the corporate side or the city side, or why we're here, is they need quality employees. They need quality employees.
And recruiting, our turnover is higher than it's been in years, like many other employers, and there is a need to find another group of people.
Dave hopes the 6-week program will create an environment where veterans can thrive.
Once you've gone through the process, you see where the gaps are, and you can start to fill those gaps. We start to heal.
In Billings, Alina Howder, MTN News.
It's the first year of a new Christmas tradition in Columbus. The Stillwater County Library is offering a program that's bringing the community together, one book at a time.
Christmas came just a few weeks early at the Stillwater County Library, and this year's book tree not only allows community members to connect with one another, it also promotes the priceless gift of literacy.
Take a look at this small but mighty tree, illuminating light and literacy for all to see.
It ignites imagination too, and without imagination there's not new ideas. That also encourages a community to grow and expand.
A tree with only a few ornaments left for boys and girls of all ages to request books they'd like Santa to bring them this Christmas.
There's no restrictions to it. Anyone who wanted a book to request, and then also in the generosity of a library and the season, we thought it was a good opportunity to combine the two.
Megan Osborne is the secretary of Friends of the Stillwater County Library, a local nonprofit. She helped debut this year's book tree and says bringing the gift of literacy to the community is one of the most important things a library can do.
The more literacy there is in our county, the more opportunities there are for kids and adults alike, for our community as a whole.
Her daughter Laura, self-proclaimed biggest Moana fan and preschooler, requested to get a book this year.
Yeah, princess picture books.
And as a princess picture book fanatic, she has quite the expertise in the subject.
And I like it.
Along with Laura's wish, there's 9-year-old Peyton who wants a book about tractors or cars, and 12-year-old Reese would like Marvel books this year.
We've had quite a few already, and I think people are buying multiple for their adopt a book, so that's always exciting too when you get more than just one.
The library says books requested should return by December 14th. If you're worried about not getting a book this year, free books are available under the tree.
It's been great, and hopefully it'll just continue to get better with each year.
Continuing a tradition that promotes literacy, imagination, and creativity one word at a time. In Columbus, Matt Carmack, MTN News.
Volunteers in Butte set up a Christmas display that's part of a long-gone Butte neighborhood.
The old Butte neighborhood of Meaderville was known for its amazing Christmas spirit. Unfortunately, that colorful neighborhood was swallowed up by the Berkeley Pit decades ago. But thanks to some Butte folks, people can see a bit of that Christmas spirit brought back to life.
This is major. This is a major part of Butte culture, our history right here. You know, remembering the Meaderville Christmas displays.
Members of the Racetrack Fire Department and Butte High's History Club helped set up a reproduction of Meaderville's 1948 Night Before Christmas display. Meaderville's former volunteer fire department used to do massive displays every Christmas season.
Oh, they went all out for it, and they came from all over the country to see them.
Students did touch-up work on the display's giant candy canes. Does it get you in the spirit?
I think so. I would say so. I think it's probably one of the most festive things I've done so far today. Butte takes care of its own, and, well, it's a big part of Butte history and a big honor to even be working on this, you know. That's what makes Butte Butte. Little things like this that kind of pull community together, and everyone loves the display.
Volunteer firefighters with Racetrack also feel privileged to carry on the tradition, especially since Meaderville's neighborhood was completely destroyed by open pit mining by the early 1970s.
People drive by here all day honking and waving, and it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling that we're doing it for Butte, and this puts me in the mood for Christmas.
People can see the display in the park behind the racetrack station at Grand and Farragut Avenues. In Butte, John Amy, MTN News.
With the holidays right around the corner, two religious organizations in Helena are teaming up to fight hate and teach about acceptance.
From Ekalaka to Victor, students at some Montana public schools will be learning about acceptance and respect for others through anti-bullying and anti-hate boxes put together by the Montana Jewish Project.
We love the thought of these messages and the little bit of joy and chocolate that we send out resonating with all kinds of kids all around the state.
Montana Jewish Project started putting together and sending out the boxes 3 years ago with the help of one of their volunteers who is a state curriculum writer.
We came to realize rather quickly that anti-Semitism and hate are issues in Montana.
Aside from featuring the book The Christmas Menorahs, How a Town Fought Hate, each box includes a menorah with a full set of candles, 6 dreidels, and lots of chocolate and plastic coins. It is something the executive director of MJP wishes her son would have experienced with his classmates.
Sometimes he'd be the only Jewish kid in his school or in his classroom. So I think sharing the fun parts of your tradition can be exciting for some kids.
While the boxes share some of those traditions, the main point behind them is to teach kids about respecting their neighbors, which was shown the day the boxes were packed. MJP's neighbor, the First Presbyterian Church, helped put the boxes together.
Children need to know that their family is very important, very special, but so is the next door neighbor.
Right. MJP is sending out 30 boxes this year. The boxes come at no cost to public school teachers around the state and are completely funded by MJP and their donors. The boxes have been shipped off to the 30 teachers, and they will be used just a couple weeks before Christmas Day and the first day of Hanukkah. In Helena, I'm Allie Kaiser, MTN News.
5 Montanans were honored at our state capitol for their work in the arts for the Governor's Arts Award. Governor Arts Award is presented in the governor's name and administered by the Montana Arts Council every 2 years. It recognizes outstanding Montana citizens and organizations whose achievements in the arts benefit all Montanans. The 2024 recipients are Jackie Larson Bread, a beater out of Great Falls, sculptor Jim Dolan of Belgrade, musician John Dunnigan of Whitefish, musician John Lowell of Livingston, and Helena painter Mary Gail Shanahan.
This ceremony celebrates the richness and wealth of our creative and cultural and artistic output that Montanans give to celebrate this beautiful land that we live in.
Still to come on this edition of Positively Montana, a super senior giving back to her community even after her retirement. Stay with us.
More stories from the heart of the Treasure State are on the way when Positively Montana continues after this.
Welcome back to Positively Montana. She's a super senior making a difference in her community. She retired after a 25-year career in education, but is now back in the classroom, helping give back to students who need a little extra attention.
She is just always looking for ways to help kiddos.
You'll find Jeannie Weber volunteering at Meadowlark Elementary in Billings a couple days each week.
Was that man?
Helping the kids in Rory Jetmore's special education class learn and believe they can do hard things. It's their first year at Meadowlark, having worked together at Washington Elementary before.
I was at a really tough school and didn't have a lot of help and, staffing issues in special ed. And Jeannie just showed up one day to help out, and it was an answer to prayer.
The students with individualized education plans can often use a little extra attention, a little extra encouragement, a little extra love.
Jeannie has such a great way of meeting the kids where they're at and being able to tailor lessons, groups, so that kids feel successful.
Jeannie spent about 25 years in education in a self-contained classroom before retiring, but she later found out there was something missing in her life.
I miss the little kiddos. They were so much fun.
So she started volunteering.
Just the interaction with the kids, and they're all so different. Well, hopefully they're improving their reading, their memory, and their just everything.
Beyond the classroom, Jeannie also volunteers with her church's program that helps provide showers for the unhoused in Billings.
People register to come and shower at the Salvation Army, and then we take a van down there and pick them up. And
just some of the ways this super senior gives back.
It is so rewarding. I hope I'm making a difference.
I'm so thankful for Miss Jeannie and her devotion to our kids in Billings Public Schools and kiddos with IEPs.
In Billings, Russ Riesinger, MTN News.
It's back to the drawing board for the Forsyth Dogies as the school faces backlash for sharing its newest logo design. The fate of that logo is now in the hands of the University of Texas, where some are concerned they're a bit too similar. Faculty and students say they want their Dogie back.
The town of Forsyth is faced with a problem.
One Dogie here, it's the same one that's here, but then there's this different one. So yeah, like 4 different Dogies on just this one page.
But before we get into that, first of all, what is a Dogie?
A Dogie? A Dogie is a fierce animal. It's a motherless calf. The Dogie fights for itself. It doesn't have anything handed to it.
Okay, now that we've determined our terms, the case of bad branding was being resolved by the school in an effort to have one logo.
The whole plan was, to start moving back through the buildings, get our purple updated, get some school spirit back in the building.
Students, however, had their thoughts.
We just don't feel like the new options represented us well as a school.
But the facial features they kind of look like an alien, and the artwork, the line work on the face is just way off.
So student body president Preston McGregor took to Facebook.
Thank you for listening, and I hope you take student interest into account when making your decision. Remember, Dogies fight harder than any other animal.
And that's when the community really joined in. Preston's video being shared nearly 100 times, seen by thousands. The verdict? They want their old Dogie back.
That logo represents just this town and Forsyth's identity. It's the first logo you see when you come into town.
People take it more serious. The cartoon one, I feel like, is more of a elementary kind of thing.
But the school's branding company tells school officials the original Dogie is too similar to the Texas Longhorn logo.
They were trying to give us a trademark and they couldn't because they said it was too close to another mascot.
So students are awaiting a response from the university after reaching out for the appropriate permissions.
The identity of your school is really what the school is built on.
But why the fuss? The extra effort? Why not just stick with the latest in logos? 1974 Forsyth High School graduate Mike Blakesley says the original logo is a reminder of what a Dogie is. Resilient.
This town has been declared dead so many times over the years, but we've always come back, and we always do come back, and we always will.
Marcus Kakova, MTN News.
Still to come on this edition of Positively Montana, we introduce you to a group dedicated to growing deep roots in a Montana city. Their story is next. Stay with us.
Positively Montana continues after this.
Welcome back to Positively Montana. The Roots Revival Group within the Gibson Park Committee is giving back by putting down roots in the Electric City.
Just like humans, trees like this go through a life cycle, and as their life starts to come to an end, we find ways to bring them back and allow their time with the community to continue. And because of that, the Parks and Recreation Department of Great Falls has a plan.
So we have the Roots Revival Committee. This is a group of citizens who saw that we were going to be cutting down about 35 trees, 39 trees in Gibson Park just because of age. And they said, hey, we need to replant that. What can we do to help? So they met with Todd Szymanski, our forester, and we kind of created this committee called the Roots Revival of Gibson Park.
Well, you know, life is always better in the shade of a tree. But no, there are several environmental factors. So the tree, you know, you look at it just sitting there, you know, you enjoy the shade, you enjoy the beauty, you enjoy the nature, you know, the birds and stuff around it. But also it has pretty good environmental impact.
Anyone interested in helping to preserve the trees in the park can donate a tree through a city-run program.
So if you go onto our website at Great Falls Park and Recreation, we have a full list of all the tree types that we'll be replanting. We have a map of where we're going to plant those trees.
You know, a couple of the elms died from Dutch elm disease, and so it's time to restart. We kind of planned it out and, you know, put trees, you know, trees with a purpose in certain spots.
So the reason we're asked that the committee has come together is we can't afford to replant all of these trees, unfortunately. It's a big cost, and the city just doesn't have it in its budget. We have a limited resource budget that goes for trees, for trimming, for leaf pickup and everything, and then replanting 35 trees just is not feasible at this time.
Planting will mostly take place in the springtime.
They will be planted as people come in and pick their spot. For the most part, we're going to really go for spring plantings, and then depending on the weather, the summer, you know, the rainfall, we probably try to do a few fall plantings. I want to, you know, say thanks to the former Mayor Winters that actually really kind of had the ideal and got this ball rolling, and he wanted something for the citizens of Great Falls to get involved with the park system.
The trees cost anywhere between $495 and $770 each. For more information, go to our website.
In Great Falls, I'm James Rowland, MTN News.
Canine conservationists from Missoula County are making an impact all around the world. The nonprofit helps with anti-poaching efforts, endangered animal monitoring, and invasive species detection. Let's go for it.
Dogs like Sully here are helping conservation efforts all around the world, saving beautiful places and beautiful landscapes.
It totally changes the paradigm, and you don't have to be able to see things visually.
At a facility in Tura, dogs learn skills to save some well-loved landmarks and species, and they do so with their noses.
Every plant has a distinct odor.
You may have seen a Dogs at Work sign leading up to the M or around Mount Sentinel. That's where Director of Special Projects Amy Hurt says the dogs work hand in paw with conservationists to manage harmful species properly.
There we're looking for Dyer's wood, which is an invasive weed.
Plus, dogs help get information on some of our most prized animals across the state, like bears and wolves, without disturbing them.
The dogs are trained to find their scat.
Through animal droppings, scientists get valuable data.
So one is their diets, one is actually their genetics, whether they're male, female. You can figure out how stressed they are by looking at hormones.
Not only are working paws on the ground around Montana, but they've taken on projects from Costa Rica to Laos, Zimbabwe, and Kenya.
We train dogs here and then send them to work with local handlers in other countries, and that's where they stay and work for their life.
In 2025, Working Dogs for Conservation is looking to add a dozen more pups to the pack, and they're closer to that goal with a donation.
We received $25,000 from Petco Love Foundation. Estimated cost is about $33,000, so this will help us find and train the dogs.
The nonprofit will bring in working dogs in need of a career change or from shelters and turn them into stewards of the environment.
we will do everything for their well-being.
Some dogs are retiring from the program and are looking for their forever homes. Visit our website to find out more. In Tura, Emily Brown, MTN News.
We hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Positively Montana. I'm Hallie Schwinard, and I'll see you right back here next week.
A group in Billings put together an art piece made up of paper cranes to be presented at what was the Hart Mountain Relocation Center during World War II. They chose the paper crane because it has become a symbol of hope and peace.
There we go.
Gary Parkins uses the Japanese art of origami for an art piece called The Gift of 1,000 Paper Cranes.
What we're trying to do is just learn from the experience, create awareness.
The art is part of the Global Peace Foundation's Cross-Community Reconciliation Project and was inspired when the group visited the Hart Mountain Interpretive Center earlier this year. More than 110,000, mostly Americans of Japanese descent, were interned shortly after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941.
They were unjustly interned, then let go, but it completely upset their lives.
Alice Slugowski, pictured on the left, helped fold the cranes and was a toddler when her family was interned at Hart Mountain.
The culture was just very persevering, and they made the most of it. But on one side, they didn't have anything to go back to. Their livelihoods had been liquidated.
Parkins says Slugowski and State Senator-elect Mike Yakowicz's family folded most of the cranes, and Parkins put the cranes into an art piece.
The white lilies and the paper cranes are spiraling upward, and there's light. Light is there to symbolize hope.
The suitcase is Yakowicz's contribution and is symbolic of each internee entering the camp with one suitcase.
The only things they were allowed to bring are what they could carry in a suitcase, and they had a very limited amount of time in which to figure out what to do with their property, whether that was to sell it or find someone who would be a custodian of it.
Rebecca McKinley is among the Interpretive Center staff accepting the gift.
Pearl Harbor had a tremendous impact on the entire United States and especially the Japanese American community because of a lot of that racial prejudice. So it is fitting that we would get a gift of peace on a day that marks quite a terrible event in the United States history.
It was a tough situation, but we don't want it to fall by the wayside. We believe that preserving its memory is a good way not to make the same mistakes.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.